The sun blazed mercilessly over the crowded marketplace, turning the red earth beneath 1,000 shuffling feet into clouds of fine dust. Ebony wiped sweat from her brow, her fingers moving with practiced grace as she wove dried palm fronds into intricate basket patterns. Fresh baskets. Strong and beautiful, she called out, her voice nearly drowned by the cacophony of merchants and bleating goats. A commotion erupted 3 stalls down. Ebony looked up to see a crowd gathering, their laughter cruel and sharp. "Look at this madman," a meat seller shouted, pointing at an elderly figure shuffling through the market. "Dressed like a beggar but walking like he owns the world." The old man wore a tattered agbada that might once have been magnificent. Now it hung from his thin shoulders like shame itself, stained and frayed. His eyes, however, carried a depth that seemed to see beyond the mockery. "Please," the old man's voice was gentle but strained, "I only need some water." "Water?" A woman selling tomatoes cackled. "Should we also feed you from golden spoons, Your Majesty?" Someone pushed the old man, and he stumbled, barely catching himself. Ebony's chest tightened. She knew that humiliation intimately, had tasted it every day since her parents died. Without thinking, she grabbed her clay water pot and pushed through the jeering crowd. "Here, sir," she said softly, offering him the pot. "Please, a drink." The marketplace fell into suspended silence. The old man's weathered hands trembled as he accepted the water. He drank deeply, then studied her face with penetrating eyes. "You have a kind heart, daughter," he said, his voice suddenly stronger, carrying impossible authority. "What is your name?" "Ebony, sir." "Ebony." He smiled. "Do you know what happens to seeds of kindness? They grow in ways you cannot imagine. Remember this, a kindness is a seed, and one day, the wind will bring your harvest. The harvest always comes." He pressed the empty pot back into her hands and walked away, his tattered agbada billowing like the robes of a king in disguise. "Ebony." The voice cracked like a whip. Her employer, Mr. Baligan, stormed toward her, his face purple with rage. "What did you just do?" "Sir, I only gave an old man water. That madman has been banned from this market. He wanders around pretending to be important." His thick finger jabbed toward her face. "You just disrespected every rule we have." "But sir," he was being humiliated. "And now you will be." Mr. Baligan grabbed her basket and threw it to the ground. "You're fired. Pack your things and leave my market." Tears blurred Ebony's vision as she gathered her belongings. No one offered help. No one dared. The walk home felt endless. Ebony's feet dragged through streets she'd walked 1,000 times, but now everything looked different through the lens of despair. Her small room cost money she no longer had. Mr. Baligan controlled most vendors, who would hire someone he'd publicly disgraced. She passed towering billboards advertising Olu Group Holdings, a corporate giant whose glass towers dominated Lagos's skyline. Beautiful people in expensive suits smiled down at her from 30 feet high, their world as distant as the moon. Her own reflection in a shop window revealed the truth: dusty wrapper, worn blouse, eyes red from crying. A market girl. Nothing more. "Excuse me, miss." Ebony turned to find a sleek black car idling beside her. The driver, an older man in a crisp uniform, leaned out the window. "Were you the young woman at the market just now? The one who helped the elderly gentleman?" Her throat tightened. "Yes." "Did I do something wrong? Is he all right?" The driver smiled warmly. "Wrong? No, child. Quite the opposite." He reached into his jacket and produced a card. "Olu Group Holdings is looking for a junior assistant. Someone with integrity. Would you be interested in an interview tomorrow morning?" Abeni stared at the embossed card, certain this was a dream or a cruel joke. Me? But I have no corporate experience. I'm just someone with a good heart, the driver interrupted. That's harder to find than you think. 9 o'clock sharp. The address is on the card. He paused, his expression knowing. Seeds grow in mysterious ways, don't they? Before she could respond, the car pulled away, leaving her standing on the roadside clutching a business card that felt like a golden ticket. That night, Abeni barely slept. She scrubbed her only good dress until her knuckles ached, practiced introducing herself in the cracked mirror, and prayed to her grandmother's spirit for guidance. The Olu Group Holdings tower rose 60 stories into the Lagos sky, all gleaming glass and steel that seemed to pierce heaven itself. Abeni stood at the entrance, her worn dress suddenly feeling like rags among the parade of polished professionals sweeping past her. Can I help you? The receptionist's eyes swept over Abeni with barely concealed disdain. Service deliveries are at the back entrance. I have an interview. Junior assistant position. Abeni's voice came out smaller than intended. The receptionist's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. Really? Name? Abeni Okofor. After a skeptical glance at her computer, the receptionist's expression shifted to surprise. Oh. You're actually on the list. She handed over a visitor badge. 15th floor. Don't touch anything. The elevator ride felt like ascending to another planet. Abeni watched the numbers climb, her reflection multiplied in the polished steel walls, a village girl in a palace of glass. The 15th floor buzzed with activity. Young professionals glided past, their designer clothes rustling, their laughter confident and bright. Abeni felt every eye land on her, assessing, dismissing. Oh my God, is there a traditional day I didn't know about? A woman in an impossibly tight pencil skirt whispered loudly to her colleague, both erupting in giggles. Maybe she's here to sell baskets, another voice chimed in. Heat flooded Abeni's cheeks, but she kept walking, clutching her worn bag like a shield. Miss Okofor. A young man approached, his expression warmer than the others. He wore his suit with casual elegance, his smile genuine. I'm Tomawa, senior manager. I'll be conducting your interview. He led her to a small conference room, and for 30 minutes, they talked. Tomawa asked about her life, her values, her dreams. He didn't seem to notice or care about her clothes or accent. You're hired, he said finally. You start Monday. Just like that. Just like that. This company was built on something more than credentials, Abeni. It was built on character. You'll understand soon enough. Monday arrived with the weight of a new world. Abeni's desk sat in a corner of the open office, and the whispers followed her everywhere like shadows. Village girl. Who did she sleep with to get hired? Probably someone's charity case. She kept her head down, worked twice as hard as anyone else, and tried to ignore the mocking glances from a particular group led by a stunning woman named Funk, all sharp cheekbones and sharper ambition. 3 days into her new job, Abeni was photocopying documents when the entire office fell silent. She looked up to see employees parting like the Red Sea. A convoy of security personnel swept through, surrounding a figure in the center. Abeni's breath caught in her throat. It was him. The old man from the market. But he no longer wore tattered agbada. Now he was dressed in an immaculate traditional outfit of deep indigo and gold, walking with the bearing of royalty. His eyes swept the office, then when they landed on Abeni, the smallest smile touched his lips. Chief Olumide. Tomawa rushed forward, bowing slightly. We weren't expecting you today, sir. I go where I wish, when I wish, the old man, Chief Olumide, replied, his voice carrying the authority Abeni had glimpsed at the market. That is the privilege of founding a company, is it not? The crowd murmured their agreement, eyes wide with deference and fear. Abeni stood frozen as the chief's gaze lingered on her for one more heartbeat before he was swept away toward the executive elevator, ascending to heights she could barely imagine. That, Ifunk whispered poisonously in her ear, is the most powerful man in Lagos. His family built half this city. And you? You're nothing but dust beneath his shoes. But Abeni remembered his words in the market, and for the first time since entering this glass tower, she smiled. The weeks that followed brought Abeni into closer proximity with the company's inner workings. Tomawa assigned her to assist with special projects, claiming she had an eye for detail others miss. The truth was simpler, she worked harder because she had more to lose. Late one evening, as golden sunset painted the office windows, Abeni found herself alone on the executive floor delivering urgent documents. The corridor stretched before her like a passage through history itself, walls lined with photographs of the company's evolution, from a single market stall to a corporate empire. Beautiful, isn't it? A voice startled her. She turned to find a young man emerging from one of the offices. He was perhaps 30, dressed in an expertly tailored suit that spoke of wealth so old it didn't need to announce itself. His face carried sharp intelligence and the weariness of someone who'd inherited expectations before inheriting power. "I'm sorry, sir. I was just appreciating history." "Nothing wrong with that." He extended his hand. Adewale Olumide. The name struck her like lightning. The chief's grandson. The heir apparent to the entire Olu empire. Abeni Okafor, sir. Junior assistant. His handshake was firm but not crushing, and his eyes studied her with curiosity rather than judgment. "You're the one who helped my grandfather in the market." It wasn't a question. "I didn't know who he was, sir. I just saw someone who needed kindness." "Exactly." Adewale's smile was enigmatic. "That's precisely why he was there. My grandfather has a theory: you only see people's true nature when they have nothing to gain from you. He tests everyone that way before trusting them with anything important." "That seems lonely." The observation slipped out before Abeni could stop it. She clapped a hand over her mouth, horrified at her audacity. But Adewale laughed, the genuine sound that seemed to surprise even him. "You know, in all my years, no one's ever said that to me. They are too busy trying to impress me or use me." He paused. "Would you like to get some air? The executive terrace is empty this time of day." They stood above the city as night fell, Lagos spreading below them like a carpet of lights. Adewale talked about the pressure of legacy, the weight of everyone's expectations. Abeni talked about losing her parents, about weaving baskets with her grandmother, about the marketplace that had been her whole world until a week ago. "My grandfather has a saying," Adewale said as the moon rose. "Do not choose a wife with your eyes, choose with your spirit." I never understood it until recently. He looked at her then, and Abeni felt something shift in the air between them, something fragile and terrifying and impossibly bright. Over the following weeks, they found reasons to work together. Adewale requested Abeni's assistance on projects, and their professional collaboration bloomed into something deeper. He taught her about corporate strategy while she taught him about authentic joy, about finding worth beyond balance sheets and quarterly reports. They shared lunch on the terrace, debated philosophy over coffee, discovered that laughter sounded the same whether you came from penthouses or market stalls. The office noticed. How could they not? "She's sleeping her way to the top," Funk hissed to her circle. "Village girl seducing the air. It's disgusting." But Adewale seemed deaf to the whispers, and Abeni tried to be blind to the jealous stares. One evening, Chief Olumide summoned his grandson to his office. Abeni waited outside, hearing only fragments through the heavy door. "She reminds me of your grandmother," the chief's voice carried clearly. "Before wealth complicated everything. Before pretense became our armor. She's different from anyone I've ever met," Adewale replied. "Different is dangerous in our world, grandson. But perhaps that's exactly what our world needs." Funk had not clawed her way from middle management to senior associate by accepting defeat. She was beautiful in the way magazines demanded, educated at foreign universities, connected to senators and oil magnates. Everything about her screamed success, except the one thing she wanted most. Adewale Olumide had never looked at her the way he looked at that market girl. "I won't let some village rat steal what should be mine," she whispered to her reflection in the bathroom mirror, touching up lipstick the color of fresh blood. Her opportunity arrived with the chief's illness. The great man collapsed during a board meeting, his heart betraying him after 78 years of relentless service. The company descended into controlled chaos as he was rushed to the hospital, with Adewale keeping vigil and the board circling like vultures anticipating succession. Abeni visited after work, bringing nothing but her presence and sincere concern. She sat beside the chief's hospital bed, held his weathered hand, and sang the old songs her grandmother had taught her, songs of ancestors and homecomings. Chief Olumide's eyes fluttered open during one particularly tender melody. "Abeni," he whispered. "You came." "Of course, sir. Everyone who cares about you is here." "No." His grip tightened with surprising strength. "Most people care about what I own, not who I am. Remember this, when truth hides, even shadows have eyes. Be careful, daughter. Envy wears many faces." The cryptic warning puzzled her, but before she could ask for clarification, doctors ushered her out for examinations. Funk watched from the hospital corridor, her mind already weaving plans as intricate as spiderwebs. The chief recovered slowly, but his illness had created a power vacuum. Important documents went missing. Confidential strategies leaked to competitors. The company hemorrhaged money as investigations revealed systematic theft. The board demanded answers, and Funk, now appointed temporary security liaison during the crisis, promised results. She found them in Abeni's desk. The discovery happened during a routine security sweep. Funk herself led the team to Abeni's modest workstation, her expression perfectly calibrated between shock and disappointment. "No, this can't be right," Funk said, her voice carrying across the silent office. "Check again." The security officer pulled out a folder from Abeni's locked drawer, a drawer Funk had opened just that morning with a key she'd stolen from maintenance. Inside were copies of confidential financial documents, competitor analyses, strategic plans worth millions. "Miss Okafor," Funk's voice dripped false sympathy. "Can you explain why you have classified company documents in your personal workspace?" Abeni stared at the folder, her mind spinning. I don't know. I've never seen those before. I don't even have access to those systems." "Security footage will prove that," Tomowa interjected, stepping forward. "Let's review the cameras before jumping to conclusions." But Funk had anticipated this. "Already done. The footage from this area has been corrupted, apparently, by someone who knew how to access our systems." She turned to Abeni with perfectly practiced sorrow. "I'm sorry, but we have no choice. You're terminated effective immediately, and will be pressing charges for corporate espionage." The conference room filled with board members, senior staff, and curious onlookers drawn by scandal's magnetic pull. Abeni stood at the center, feeling every eye dissect her like a specimen under glass. "This is ridiculous." Adewale's voice cut through the murmurs. "Abeni would never do this. Someone planted those documents. With respect, Mr. Olymide, the board chairman said carefully, your personal feelings may be clouding your judgment. The evidence is clear. The evidence is convenient, Adewale shot back. Conveniently timed, conveniently discovered. This is a setup. The conference room doors burst open, and Lady Monarchy Olymide swept in like a force of nature. Adewale's mother had the bearing of someone born to power and married into more, a senator's wife, a corporate queen, a woman who'd spent her life ensuring her family's position remained unassailable. Adewale, her voice could freeze fire. Step away from that girl immediately. Mother, this isn't. Isn't what? Isn't exactly what it appears. A market girl with no education, no background, no family worth mentioning, somehow ending up with classified documents. Lady Monarch's gaze fell on Ebony with the weight of judgment itself. Did you really think we wouldn't see through your scheme? Seduce the heir, steal company secrets, sell them to the highest bidder. I didn't, Ebony's voice broke. Save your lies for the police. Lady Monarchy turned to her son. I have tolerated your fascination with this girl because I thought you'd tire of her novelty. But this ends now. Our blood does not marry market blood. Our empire does not fall to gold diggers and thieves. She's not. She is exactly what she appears to be. The words echoed off glass walls. A poor girl who saw an opportunity and took it. There is no shame in her ambition, but there is shame in your blindness. Ebony felt something inside her crack, not her spirit, but her hope. She'd allowed herself to believe fairy tales were possible, that kindness could bridge the canyon between their worlds. But Lady Monarch's eyes reflected the truth, some distances were too vast to cross. I'll go, Ebony said quietly. I didn't steal anything, but I understand you need someone to blame. She looked at Adewale, memorizing his face. Thank you for treating me like I mattered. It was the most beautiful gift anyone's ever given me. She placed her visitor badge on the conference table and walked toward the door. Ebony, wait, Adewale started forward, but his mother's hand on his arm stopped him. Let her go, son. Some mistakes need to walk away on their own feet. The elevator descent felt like falling into a well. Ebony watched the numbers decrease, each floor marking another layer of dreams peeling away. The lobby buzzed with afternoon crowds, everyone rushing somewhere important, pursuing ambitions and futures. She pushed through the revolving door and stepped into Lagos's heat and noise and indifference. God, she whispered to the sky above the traffic and the towers, if my heart was pure, fight for me. Chief Olymide returned to the office a week later, still weakened but alert. Something in the building's atmosphere troubled him, a falseness hanging in the air like smoke after fire. Where is Ebony? He asked Tomowa during his first briefing. Tomowa's expression grew dark. She was fired, sir. Accused of corporate espionage. Funk led the investigation and found stolen documents in her desk. Funk. The chief's eyes narrowed. Bring me all security footage from the past month. Every camera, every angle, every second. Sir, the footage from Ebony's area was corrupted. Then bring me footage from every other area. Bring me entry logs, access records, maintenance schedules. Bring me everything. Adewale joined the investigation, his grief hardening into determination. They worked through nights, piecing together digital breadcrumbs. Funk had been careful, but arrogance had made her sloppy. A camera she'd forgotten, angled toward the maintenance corridor, caught her entering with a stolen key at 2 a.m. Another captured her leaving the document room with files she had no authorization to access. Her own security badge pings told the story she'd tried to erase. The chief called a company-wide meeting 3 days later. Every employee packed the main auditorium, confusion rippling through the crowd. Funk stood near the front, perfectly composed, having just received praise for protecting company interests. Chief Olumide took the stage, his presence commanding despite his physical frailty. Adewale stood beside him, and Tomowa operated the presentation screen. "We gather today to address a great injustice," the chief began. "An innocent woman was accused, humiliated, and cast out based on lies. It is time for truth to have its day." The screen flickered to life, showing security footage in damning clarity. The auditorium watched in stunned silence as Funk's midnight activities played out in high definition, stealing keys, accessing restricted areas, planting documents in Ebony's desk. Funk's face drained of color, her perfect composure cracking like thin ice. "Corporate espionage is a serious crime," Chief Olumide continued, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "But betraying trust, destroying an innocent person's reputation, corrupting the values this company was built upon. Those are sins that cut deeper than any financial loss." "Sir, I can explain," Funk started forward. "There is no explanation that matters." The chief's words fell like stones. "You saw goodness and chose to destroy it because it reminded you of everything you're not. You had education, position, opportunity, everything except the one thing that truly matters: character." He paused, letting silence press against the crowd. "Kindness builds kingdoms. Pride burns them down. You are dismissed, Miss Funk. Security will escort you out. Criminal charges will follow." The auditorium erupted. Security officers flanked Funk as she stood frozen, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. As they led her past rows of former colleagues, no one met her eyes. At the door, she turned back one last time. "I would have been perfect for him. I'm educated, sophisticated, connected. You're empty," Chief Olumide said simply. "And that's the saddest thing of all." Adewale drove through Lagos streets that evening, navigating by Tomowa's hastily scribbled directions. The neighborhoods grew progressively poorer, corporate towers giving way to cramped buildings and dusty roads. He found Ebony's home in a compound of similar structures, where families shared walls and children played in the narrow spaces between buildings. The smell of frying plantains mixed with wood smoke, and somewhere a radio played old high-life music that made his grandmother's generation dance. He knocked on a door identified only by a fading number. Ebony answered, surprise and weariness flashing across her face. She wore a simple wrapper, her hair tied back, her hands stained with palm oil from basket weaving. Behind her, the single room was spotless but sparse, a sleeping mat, a small kerosene stove, baskets in various stages of completion. "Adewale." Her voice was carefully neutral. "What are you doing here?" "We found proof. Funk planted everything. Your name is cleared, and she's been arrested." He spoke quickly, as if speed could bridge the distance between them. "You can come back. Your job is waiting. We'll make this right. Come back." She laughed, but the sound carried edges. "To what? Your mother made it very clear what people like me mean to people like you." "My mother was wrong." "Was she?" Ebony stepped outside, closing the door behind her. "Look around, Adewale. This is my world. Broken plumbing, shared toilets, neighbors who know everything about your business because walls are thin. You drove here in a car that costs more than this entire building. We can be cleared of accusations, but we can't be cleared of who we are. I don't care about that. You should." The words burst from her with surprising force. "I let myself believe in fairy tales. I thought kindness could be enough, that character mattered more than bank accounts. But your world doesn't work that way. Your mother knows it. The board knows it. Even you know it, deep down. Adewale stood silent for a moment, watching her in the golden evening light. Then he did something that would become legend in his family for generations. He knelt in the dust at her feet, his expensive suit absorbing the red earth of her world. "You're right," he said quietly. "Our worlds are different. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we need each other precisely because we are different." From his pocket, he pulled a small box. Inside was a ring unlike any traditional engagement ring, woven from fine gold thread in the exact pattern of her market baskets, with a single diamond at its center where palm fronds would cross. "This was made by the same craftsman who created my grandfather's ceremonial regalia. I described your baskets to them, explained how your grandmother taught you to weave strength and beauty together. They said they understood that the best foundations combine different materials into something stronger than either part alone." Tears spilled down Abeni's cheeks. "You taught me what wealth truly means," Adewale continued. "Not the numbers in bank accounts, but richness of spirit. Not the size of houses, but the size of hearts. You saw my grandfather as a human being when everyone else saw either a homeless man or a means to power. That kind of vision is rarer than any diamond. Your mother will have to accept that her son learned the most important lesson from a market girl, that worth isn't inherited or purchased. It's proven. Will you walk beside me, Abeni? Not behind me, not following me, but beside me as an equal partner in building something that matters." She looked down at him, this powerful man kneeling in the dust of her poverty, offering not rescue but partnership. Around them, neighbors had emerged to watch, drawn by the spectacle of a man in an expensive suit kneeling before their Abeni. "Yes," she whispered, then stronger, "yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it caught the setting sun, turning the woven gold into captured fire. When he stood, he pulled her into an embrace that felt like coming home to a place neither had known they were seeking. From a nearby window, the old woman clapped, and soon the entire compound erupted in celebration, children dancing, adults ululating, someone cranking up the radio to share joy with the evening air. The wedding merged two worlds that had never been meant to touch. The Olumide family's traditional compound in their ancestral village filled with both corporate executives and market vendors, senators and basket weavers, old money and no money, all gathered to witness something extraordinary. Abeni wore a bridal outfit that sparked controversy in fashion magazines for weeks, traditional Aso oak cloth woven by women from her grandmother's village, styled by the country's most expensive designers. She looked like a queen who remembered being common, which is perhaps the most powerful kind of queen. The ceremony followed old traditions, palm wine shared, ancestors honored, drums speaking languages older than the nation itself. Chief Olumide presided, his health restored enough to witness his grandson's harvest. Lady Moneki approached Abeni before the final ceremony, her face a mixture of emotions too complex to name. "I was wrong," she said simply. "I measured you by your circumstances rather than your character. I forgot that my own grandmother sold fish in the market before my grandfather saw past her scale-stained hands to her unshakable spirit." She took Abeni's hands. "Forgive my blindness, child. Teach my grandchildren what I almost forgot, that worth isn't where you start, but who you become." The blessing felt like an exhale, like the last wall crumbling between worlds. As night fell, guests danced under strings of lights while live musicians played. Adewale pulled Abeni close during a slow traditional ballad, their foreheads touching. "Are you happy?" he asked. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Your world is so big and complicated. Then we'll simplify it together. Starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, we start building something new. I've been thinking about what you said, about different worlds needing each other. What if we created bridges instead of walls?" His words proved prophetic. Within 6 months, Ebony returned to her old marketplace, not as a vendor, but as a founder. The Olokofo Training Center opened in a renovated building where Mr. Balogun's stall once stood, offering business education, skills training, and microloans to young women who'd been told they were nothing but market girls. Ebony taught weaving classes herself, her fingers flying through palm fronds while explaining profit margins and business planning. Adewale visited weekly, learning crafts from women who'd once seemed invisible to him. Chief Olimide attended the center's grand opening, his presence drawing government ministers and media attention. As cameras flashed and speeches echoed, he pulled Ebony aside. "Do you remember what I told you in the market?" he asked. "Kindness is a seed," she recited. "And the wind brings the harvest. Look around." He gestured at the transformed marketplace, at young women learning skills that would change their families' trajectories, at corporate executives and vendors sharing space and stories. "Do you see it? The harvest isn't just your personal happiness. It's all of this, every life touched, every barrier broken, every seed of kindness that will grow from what you planted." Ebony's eyes swept the scene, old women teaching new skills, young girls dreaming bigger dreams, two worlds learning to speak each other's languages. In the corner she spotted the old meat seller who'd once mocked the chief, now sheepishly enrolling his daughter in business classes. "The harvest has come," she agreed. That evening, as the sun set over Lagos, Ebony and Adewale stood on the training center's roof. Below them, the market bustled with evening trade. Above them, the city's towers glowed with approaching night. They existed between two worlds, belonging fully to neither and somehow to both. "What are you thinking?" Adewale asked. Ebony smiled, her hand resting on her slightly swollen belly where their first child grew, another bridge between worlds, another seed of possibility. "I'm thinking about my grandmother," she said. "How she taught me that the strongest baskets with different materials together. How she always said that what makes you different makes you valuable." She turned to face him. "I'm thinking that maybe the point of life isn't to choose between worlds, but to build new ones." Behind them, the training center's lights flickered on, casting warm glow across the marketplace. Inside, evening classes began, women learning, growing, daring to imagine futures they'd been taught were impossible. From the street below, laughter drifted upward, children playing, vendors calling out final bargains, the eternal music of human connection and commerce and community. Ebony's laughter joined theirs, floating over the market like a blessing, like a promise, like a seed carried on the wind to soil no one could predict. The harvest, as the old chief had promised, had come. And it was more beautiful than anyone had imagined.